June 12th, 2016, the Pulse Orlando nightclub was the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history, with 47 killed and 53 injured. Omar Mateen used a semi-automatic rifle and a semi-automatic pistol to commit this act. And many Americans would tell you that because of incidents and events like this, that we must, as a people, call the government to restrict gun control and prohibit the usage and ownership of weapons in America. They would also believe that gun ownership leads to homicide, fewer guns means fewer gun violence, and you do not have the right to own any guns you want. But I would tell you that more gun control and the restriction of weapons would not lead to less crimes, but would lead to less people being able to protect themselves from those that are committing these acts. Now that leads me to my first point: criminals won't adhere to the rules. If you look at common people like you and I, the biggest law that we break daily is speeding. But when it comes to major laws like gun control, we're pretty much adherent to those. But criminals don't care about gun control and about where and what guns they can buy. They're going to get them however they want because they want them, and they want them for the acts they want to commit. It's all about what they want. And when you look at people who purchase guns illegally, they don't have a concern about where those guns are permitted. Most people who purchase guns illegally are because they already have an idea of what they want to do with them, and they don't want guns to be able to be traced back to them. Now, if we look at 2012 with the Aurora Theater shooting, guns are legal to carry in movie theaters, yet the gunman was still able to bring in a shotgun, a semi-automatic rifle, and a pistol, and killed 12 and injured 70. No one stopped him from firing because nobody was able to carry a gun into the theater like he did, even though he did it illegally. So, with that, gun control is only going to limit the people that are already following the rules. Criminals will purchase guns illegally or find them illegally by stealing, buying from corrupt people, purchasing at illegal markets, as well as having friends purchase weapons for them and just give them to them. And limiting the amount in the purchase of firearms won't actually limit anything, because if you look back in the past of America, when the government prohibited alcohol, the Prohibition era came where people would consume and make their own alcohol called moonshine and sell that to other citizens without the government's consent, because they wanted what they wanted and they weren't going to listen to the government when they were trying to restrict them from stuff that they wanted. That leads me to the limiting of places where you can purchase firearms and restricting the identification needed to purchase them. It doesn't affect the people who aren't buying weapons from those stores. Now, my second point is the Second Amendment. When it comes to home defense, gun owners are usually people who own rifles, shotguns, and pistols, which they mainly use for hunting. Those same people use their guns for hunting as well as home defense. And if they control gun laws increase and the availability or use of weapons decreases or is banned, those people aren't able to defend their homes and houses as much as they could, and they aren't able to hunt and provide for their families like they used to. And when people on the pro-gun control side talk about concealed carry arms and people that conceal carry only causing more damage and more death in those mass shooting scenarios, isn't true, because concealed carry people need a license, they need to go through training, they need all these specific things so that they can carry respectfully and responsibly. So I would say that having concealed carry civilians would only increase the protection of civilians around them and also deter criminals from actually causing mass shootings or causing mass injuries because they don't know who's going to have a weapon. If they knew there was an increase of concealed carry arms, it would be less likely for them to actually go into big populated areas and start shooting at people, because it's more likely that those people would start shooting back at them. Also, an increase of gun control would lead to less likely protection from other nations' military force invasions. Because if you look at the stats, America has 3.5 million soldiers, which ranks number 5 in the size of the military around the world. But if you look closer at America's numbers, nations are scared to come into America and invade because 13.7 million hunters are in our fields and in our forests in a year. And 18.9 million Americans are active in archery and bow hunting, meaning that our military force almost triples the largest military force in the world. If we allow governments to mandate our guns, we would also be unable to protect ourselves from those governments that might try and take over and control the population, like in Russia with Stalin and Germany with Hitler. Stalin was able to kill 20 plus million people because he was able to limit the amount of guns that the civilians could own, and they had no means of defending themselves. As well as in Nazi Germany, 20.9 million deaths occurred because of their inability to own weapons and protect themselves. That leads me to my third point. Guns don't kill people. Any type of weapon is an inanimate object, so it is impossible for it to commit a crime. If we look in the past, we never blame swords, we never blame bows or arrows, we never blame the weapon for killing people. It's only people. So why do we blame guns? Murder has always been a corrupt part of human society since Cain and Abel in Genesis 4. So why would we put resources into the reformation of weapons rather than the reformation of the people that are wielding them? We should put more focus into mental health and to sick-minded people, because 61% of firearm-related deaths were actually people committing suicide, and only 35% were gun deaths, were homicide in 2018. Now, people that commit crimes and mass shootings are criminals. They're not going to listen to the rules. They're not going to listen to the government. They're going to do what they want to do because that's who they are. And if we were to restrict weapons, it would only restrict the people protecting themselves and the people that are wanting to make sure that this nation is safe from foreign invasion and from domestic governmental invasion. They only want to protect themselves, provide for themselves. So why would we restrict the people of this nation that are going to follow the rules?